Hey, we're back at the range today, continuing to work up loads on our Rock Island Ultra Tac 2 and 45 ACP. And what we're testing today are two different loads. One using Everglades 250 grain Colt 45 projectile. That's going to be sitting over top of 6.3 grains of bullseye. And our overall length on that is 1.215 inches, and this should be a plus P load somewhere in the neighborhood of about 2100 or 21,000 psi, and we're looking for 950 plus feet per second velocity. So we'll see how that does, and we'll kind of go from there. Got the chrono hooked up. And our 250 grain got 10 rounds. Let's see what our performance is. And we're shooting from about 15 yards. Our velocity was 958, and when you got quick load dialed in right, it actually gave me an estimated velocity of 958. Okay, let's try it again. 958. 958 was our first. .942, still no read on the chronograph. That's very disappointing. Very disappointing. All right, so predictions from quick load were pretty close to being spot on. This is what my brass looks like. Most of it is flattened, so that does make me think we are at the estimated 21,400 psi. So that's a good solid plus P load, and we should be making somewhere in the neighborhood of a little over 500 foot-pounds, or right around 500 foot-pounds of energy. And the pistol soaks that up quite well. Let's see what accuracy. While I'm not really shooting for accuracy, I've noticed that these Everglades bullets actually group fairly well, and I'm shooting at 15 yards. So this is basically my group. I got a couple of flyers out here, but there's 8 shots within 4 inches probably. And again, I'm not really trying to shoot target, so to speak. I'm just shooting for velocities and to check pressures. I'm wanting this to sort of be a dangerous game load. At least staying within 45 ACP pressures, at least anyway. Alright, so our next load up is going to be the Lee 230 grain truncated cone. It's got a big flat met plate on it, and I think it would also be a very good dangerous game load. And velocity and pressures on it are, let's see what we've got. Pressures on it on the 230, that's 6.5 grains of bullseye, seated at 1.200. We're at 22.6 thousand psi, and we should be a little over 1,000 feet a second on this load if quick load is basically accurate. So we'll see what it does. I'll give you the velocities of the first couple of rounds, and then we'll move the camera along to the chronograph. Our first piece of brass. Go ahead and take these, move them off the table. And this is our data for that load, 22,000.6. And estimated velocity will be 1,014 for 526 foot-pounds of energy. That's based off a quick load. Our actual velocity was 1,008. So I've got the quick load model fairly well dialed in at this point. Let's see what else we've got. Brass does not look bad. Velocity on that was 1,005. So why don't we go ahead and move over to the chronograph at this point. Okay, got an error off of that. Let's see if we get another good read. Well, let's just reset. Make sure that we do what we can to get a good reading. Okay, 1,018 feet a second on that one. So these are all making well over 500 foot-pounds. Here's our recovered brass. And again, nothing troublesome. All that looks about like what you would expect plus P loading with a heavy bullet to look like. And again, there's basically my information. This number up at top is our case capacity in grains of water. So some of the earlier estimates I didn't have the chamber on this pistol calibrated, or didn't have the brass calibrated to the chamber on this pistol. So I corrected that, and that got us very, very close. So pressure on the 250 grain, 21.4. with velocities ranging 958 to 980. And then on the 230, 6.5 to 6.6, and it was seated at 1.2. 22.6 was our pressure load, and 1014 526 was what our estimate was from quick load. And our actual velocities were relatively close to that. Like I said, 1014 was the quick load estimate, and that last shot was 1018. So we can see quick load is a pretty valuable tool for kind of, I don't know, loading outside of the box, if you will. Maybe even actually using powders that you wouldn't necessarily use, or trying to max out pressures and velocities using the powders that are even typically used. So anyhow, let's see what we got target wise. These cast bullets do not shoot nearly as well as what the Everglades did, or at least they haven't, and I think we'll see that again in this. So this is basically a spread of about like my hand versus up here. Most of it was all very tight. This is not so tight compared. So the plated Everglades bullets are definitely, from an accuracy standpoint, or more accurate. So that's what we've got today from a loading standpoint. Like I said, trying to sort of max out a plus P pressure loading for this pistol. And I'll probably throw a little heavier recoil spring in it, and maybe even start taking it into the 45 Super realm once I sort of decide what my final loading is going to be on this. So anyway, those 250 Everglades really shoot tight, better than what my cast stuff is, although the Met plate on the cast is a whole lot larger than what the Met plate is on the Everglades 250. In fact, the Met plate on that 230 grain is actually bigger than the Met plate on the 255 grain Lee mold. That shocked me whenever I put the two bullets side by side. I wasn't expecting the Met plate on the 230 to actually be larger. So anyhow, maybe we'll actually do some ballistics testing on target and sort of see what penetration looks like, since all these, both of these rounds would be intended to be deep penetrators. All right, that's what we've got for today.